Runaway! Hello, welcome to me ranting about lore that rarely anyone cares about. I will barely get any views on this at all, but I do not care, because this video is only for me. And sort of for Oddity. This is inspired by Odd Otter's video on their lore, so go check them out, because they deserve more attention. Now, I've got a whole ton of stories, story ideas, and OC universes. But the one I will be discussing today is Runaway, my fantasy story. And also, if you're sitting there wondering, oh, but Kat, what about your other OC universe, like the SB-verse, or your story on the Black Magic Club? And to that I say, patience! I'm choosing this one because it's currently my main focus in writing. I hit a nasty case of writer's block and I need all the inspiration I can get, so working on videos and doing this is my main source material for inspiration. Maybe in the future I'll make videos on my other projects, but for now, we're sticking with this one. To start us all off, I'd like to discuss the origin of this project. It started about a year ago, when I hit my fantasy story phase. I was reading a ton of webcomics and manga that were all isekai-themed stories, and I soon grew a huge urge to create my own fantasy story. Not in isekai, though. I had a ton of ideas and concepts written down at the time, but none of them really stuck out with me. And then one day, I was bored and decided to read some fanfiction, as I usually do, and I came across one fantasy AU fanfic that really stuck with me. I had to write it down. I don't know how it led to this point, but I just started falling in love with this premise, and I just couldn't let it go to waste like all the others. About a couple pages of writing and a playlist of videos later, I got to where I am now. And if you're curious about what fanfic I was reading, I'm not telling you, because one, it's embarrassing to admit, and two, I don't know if the original author is alright with me outing them like this, as they disappeared off their account a while ago. Do not freak out. The fanfic wasn't anything problematic, it's just, these are the kind of fanfics that people rather keep to themselves out of fear of judgment. But enough about that. Now let's dive headfirst into the lore. My world is called Etheria, created by ancient sorcerers to spread their magic across dimensions. Both humans and monsters roam the land, and centuries later, as the magic grew with time, more worlds were created to inhabit more creatures. There are two types of magic, light and dark. Generic, I know. To balance out the magic, they gave each land 3 different realms. The overworld, where most of the creatures live, they inhabit all light magic. And the underworld, where all the darkest creatures reside. They all inhabit dark magic. Again, generic, I know. Now, unfortunately, both light and dark are able to cross over to other realms, and they spread across the land in harmful ways to both sides. That is where the third realm comes to play. I don't exactly have an exact name for it, but I call it the realm in between. This is where all the used magic from both realms go, and is gathered to create beings known as the shadow creatures. More on them later. There are humans in this world. Monsters also exist, but of my world, there is one special type of species that reside, and that is hybrids. They're the main focus of my story. A hybrid is when a human and a monster crossbreed, giving birth to a child that is both human and monster, giving them abilities that a regular human can only dream of having. My characters consist of mostly hybrids, not just because they're more interesting than humans. Lola, you're an exception, I love you dearly. But because in Etheria, hybrids are often taken in as slaves for the wealthy humans, exploited for their superhuman abilities, treated more like creatures rather than human beings. This is important because my story centers around a group of hybrids working together to escape this cruel program to a part of the land that deems hybrid traits illegal, and all humans and hybrids live in peace. Now, I've said that humans don't have abilities like hybrids and monsters do, but there are humans that use magic. See, as all beings were created by the ancients, magic resides in all beings, even humans. They're just only able to use it once undergoing special training from magic users, such as witches and sorcerers. Magic takes a lot of energy, and too much use of it can weaken the user. I should also state that these magic users are often seen as the lowlife of society, and as such, they're often hiding or living on the streets. And as such, not many humans practice magic anymore. Ancient magic is something lost in old books within time, capable of spells beyond their comprehension. No one has heard or even used such power in this time, and no one intends to use magic, as when in the wrong hands, it can be the cause of so much destruction and chaos. However, there are some indications of ancient magic still being used, such a thing known as the infamous Shadow War, where a curse was placed upon all beings, turning them all into horrible beasts that are all driven by one evil sorcerer, who wanted to control over both worlds. Thankfully, this whole battle was resolved upon the sorcerer's death that broke the curse. Not so fortunately, my story involves a similar, much older curse that has just begun its spread. When magic is used, it leaves behind particles that linger into the land. It can cause damage, but thankfully the rain clears it up. All the rest that doesn't fall right into the realm in between is either fed to the void or gathered to give life to beings known as the shadow shifters. Let me explain a little bit about these creatures. Hope you're ready to hear me nerd about this creature that I have created, because here we go. These creatures are made purely of magic particles left behind by magic users. They, like shadows, are able to blend in and shift into anything and anyone. These creatures can change sizes and different forms, but their common form is extremely tall with long limbs. Their ability to shift comes from their joined particles, like molecules, taking a form. They are quick healers due to this ability to reform, and their molecules constantly duplicate. They can't really die due to natural causes or injuries. However, they are just magic particles, and water is known to dissolve their bodies. They can heal if they avoid it fast enough, but too much water can make them disappear. Though it's just water, it feels like fire for them. These creatures don't cry, instead they release black particles when in pain, emotionally or physically. Their existence started with the all-powerful Shadow King, whose reign over the realm in between was well known as he ruled over these creatures for centuries. Before the death of the Shadow King, these beings were mindless animals that wandered and killed whatever threatened them. They soon evolved over the years and gained sentience of their own. However, when a shadow shifter experiences extreme emotional distress, they can revert back to their old mindset as a defense mechanism to prevent any psychological damage. This can give them temporary memory loss, as they force their minds to forget the moments of immense pain. The only way to snap them back is a stronger tug of emotion through an anchor of a good memory. While these creatures are unique on their own, a hybrid of this creature is considered more valuable, as they're given the ability to shapeshift more precisely than just being like a reforming shadow on the ground. These shapes they make are more corporeal. They're more resilient to water, however, it does still burn the skin, and it will kill them still if they're in water long enough, as it burns through the rest of the human body, including their organs, slowly but more painful. One of my main characters, Aster, is a hybrid of these creatures. They aren't extremely knowledgeable of this half of their being due to his memory loss, but one of his main goals is to learn as much as possible to get in touch with their other half of them, as a bit of self-discovery. I mentioned before that hybrids of this world are often slaves and exploited for their abilities. There are these people called traders, and what they do is they capture any free-roaming hybrids and force them into slavery. Nothing can really be done about it since no one considers them to be human. However, the main issue of this is that, while it's not exactly legal, it's not entirely illegal in most of the land. Aster and two of his friends are part of a small protection force that works to set hybrids free and destroy camps and warehouses run by the traders. My story takes place after Aster ends up being captured by these traders and ends up meeting Ren, who has fallen victim of this terrible capture program, and is forced to serve under a horrible, corrupt nobleman named Lord Claude. There are tons of hybrids on the run trying to escape to the land that they all refer to as the Holy Lands, which is really just a side of the land protected by powerful hybrids and holds a law that has trades remain illegal. The village that Time and Cypress lived in originally used to be full of humans and hybrids, but after Lord Claude's arrival, most of the residents were either sent away, captured, or killed. Soon after, they eventually work with Ren and Aster to escape to the Holy Lands. All of them have a goal to escape from this man who wants to take them and turn them into slaves under his control. Now that all that is settled, let's talk about the more important piece of the lore, and that is the actual story that I am telling throughout the land of Etheria. It's still currently in development, so some things may not be finalized yet, and I originally was just gonna have this story for myself only, but so many people want to read it, and I feel the pressure coming on now. Even my brother wants to read it, and he hates this kind of thing. So to avoid giving out as much spoilers as possible, I have to keep it all as vague as possible. But I can tell you what exactly it is all about. Here's what I can state. The story centers around an amnesiac hybrid named Aster, who gets captured by traders and forced to be a slave to a cruel nobleman. He meets Ren, another captured hybrid under his command. They both want to escape from their new chains, so they make a deal to work together to achieve this goal. In return, Aster must take Ren to the Holy Lands, where it is safe for her to live away from the evil traders and the horrible Lord Claude. Along the way, they meet two other hybrids in hiding, Time and Cypress. And together they travel across the forest to find their holy lands where they can all be free. They're all on the run from traders. However, they will find along this journey that some of them have been running from something else as well. Oh, and if you're wondering where the curse I talked about comes to play, no spoilers. But you might find out if you watch the videos I made on this story. I have a playlist if you'd like to check them all out on your own. If you don't want to, that's also fine. However, if you're interested in seeing this as a real book than a simple gacha series, I have to state, I don't know how this all works. But I am definitely gonna try to work it out if more people would love to see the actual full-fledged project. For now, it's more of an outline I'm trying to work out, and then there's the whole trying to teach myself how to draw better because I like working with graphic novels more than actual novels. But we'll think about that when we get to it. Anyways, that's all I'm willing to share with you guys. If you'd like to see more of this project or would like to hear more on my other work, please let me know. Until then, I'm gonna go nap for a while because making this was harder than I had anticipated. Hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all later. Bye!